We're ready.
All right, we'll make a start and welcome everyone to Nillumbik Shire Council Council meeting tonight, Tuesday, 28th of September, 2021. So members of the public are advised that the meeting will be live streamed and recorded, and the live stream and video recording will be made publicly available on YouTube and Council's website. Nillumbik Council respectfully acknowledges the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people as the traditional custodians of the country on which Nillumbik is located, and we value the significance of the Wurundjeri people's history as essential to the unique character of this Shire. We pay tribute to all First Nations people living in Nillumbik, give respect to elders past, present and future, and extend that respect to all First Nations people. We respect the enduring strength of the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung and acknowledge the ongoing impacts of past trauma and injustices from European invasion, massacres and genocide committed against First Nations people. We acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people hold a deep and ongoing connection to this place. We value the distinctive place of our First Nations people in both Nillumbik and Australia's identity. From their cultural heritage and care of the land and waterways to their ongoing contributions in many fields, including academia, agriculture, art, economics, law, sport and politics. That's Remuneration going to do our good governance pledge.
As councillors, we are mindful of our civic responsibilities and obligations. We pledge to take them seriously and to carry them out with diligence and integrity. We know the decisions we take will affect the people and environment of Nillumbik now and into the future. We undertake, therefore, to make sound and principled decisions of lasting value in a spirit of fairness and for the good of all. We also pledge to serve the needs and well-being of the community and the environment in an open and honest manner and to the best of our abilities.
Mayor Perkins, you're on mute.
Yeah.
Thank you. I've got a lot of clicking going on in the background, but yeah, thanks for that. Next, I'm going to introduce our prayer reader for this council meeting, and it's Trish Sagar. And Trish is the Vice Chair of the Nillumbik Baha'i Assembly. She has lived in Nillumbik Shire for 34 years. The Nillumbik Baha'i community originated in the mid-70s in what was then known as the Diamond Valley Shire. After amalgamation with Eltham Shire, the Nillumbik Baha'i community formed in the mid-80s. The Nillumbik Baha'i community comprises 33 adults and 8 children, ranging in age from 6 months to 80 years. And they're from a diverse range of backgrounds, including Australian, American, Malaysian, Mexican, Turkish and Iranian. They have no clergy and elect 9 adult believers to form an assembly annually to administer the affairs of the community. Consultation is an essential key in the decision-making process, as no one is considered lesser or greater than the other. They meet every 19 days to pray, to discuss community matters and to socialise. Over the years, Nillumbik Baha'i community has been involved in numerous local activities. They've operated information stalls in the Rotary Diamond Creek Town Fair and the Rotary Eltham Town Fair, and held activities during Refugee Week and Reconciliation Week. They've run a devotional program for many years with Plenty Valley FM radio station, and even won a Gomi Award, and also taught Baha'i religious education for many years in local primary schools. Baha'i's aim is to celebrate diversity while living harmoniously in the human family, and I'd like to introduce Trish.
Thank you. O thou kind Lord, thou hast created all humanity from the same stock. Thou hast decreed that all shall belong to the same household. In thy holy presence, they are all thy servants, and all mankind are sheltered beneath thy tabernacle. All have gathered together at thy table of bounty. All are illumined through the light of thy providence. O God, thou art kind to all. Thou hast provided for all, dost shelter all, conferrest life upon all. Thou hast endowed each and all with talents and faculties, and all are submerged in the ocean of thy mercy. O thou kind Lord, unite all. Let the religions agree and make the nations one, so that they may see each other as one family and the whole earth as one home. May they all live together in perfect harmony. O God, raise aloft the banner of the oneness of mankind. O God, establish the most great peace. Cement thou, O God, the hearts together. O thou kind Father, God, gladden our hearts through the fragrance of thy love. Brighten our eyes through the light of thy guidance. Delight our ears with the melody of thy word, and shelter us all in the stronghold of thy providence. Thou art the mighty and powerful. Thou art the forgiving, and thou art the one who overlooketh the shortcomings of all mankind.
You're on mute, Peter.
Sorry, yeah, I got it. Thanks very much, Trish. Really appreciate your efforts tonight.
You're welcome. It was a
Good up and keep up the great work in the community. Next on the agenda are apologies. There's no apologies or councillors at present. There aren't any presentations. Confirmation of minutes is next, and looking for a mover. Councillor Payne.
Yep. I would just like to move the recommendation that council confirms the minutes of the council meeting and confidential council meeting held on Tuesday, 24th of August, 2021, attachments 1 and 2, and resolved that the confidential council meeting of minutes, attachment 2, remain confidential in accordance with section 3(1) of the Local Government Act 2020.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Do we have a seconder? I've got Councillor Ramcharan. Councillor Payne, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I don't.
No. Any other councillor? We'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried. It's unanimous. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is disclosure of conflicts of interest. If any councillor has a disclosure of conflict of interest, speak up. I don't think there are any. Petitions, there are no petitions. Questions from the gallery. We've only got 3 tonight. A bit different to last month where there's a lot more than that. But the first question is from Charlie Clark, and Charlie Clark has asked the following question. I live in Research, so my local park is Yeremi Reserve Playground, and I was wondering, as it's very important to me, will you ever install water fountains for both people and dogs? So Charlie, council review playground upgrade and budgets annually as part of the budget cycle. This will be investigated alongside other playground upgrade requests as part of that process. And just speaking to the council engineer today, they're looking into the availability of water. It might be a small job or a big job, so they're going to look into it for you. Diane Brooker has asked 2 questions. The first one is, how many survey responses did Nillumbik receive for the Eltham Area Community Hospital consultation, and how many submissions were made? So Diane, as of 28th of September, which is today, the initial count shows 1,034 survey responses and 42 written submissions across both electronic and hard copy contributions. A report on the engagement will be included for the PCC Planning Community Consultation meeting to be held on the 12th of October. And these numbers may adjust slightly after final reconciliation. Diane's second question is, on September the 8th, the VHBA, which is the Victorian Health Building Authority, provided no reports, plans, documents, studies, modelling to the community. Did Nillumbik Council have any information that can be shared with the community concerning this proposal, or do they possess any information from the VHBA that, for whatever reason, cannot be shared at this time? Diane, Nillumbik Council does not have any additional information for that in the public domain. Okay, so that's all the questions from our virtual gallery, and we'll move on to the first of the reports of advisory committees, and it's advisory committee report 28th of September. Looking for a motion, Councillor Duffy.
Yeah, I'm happy to make that motion. Mayor?
Yep, that the minutes of the advisory committee meetings reported be noted as per attachment 1. Yep.
Yes. So I don't need to read that out because you've just done that. Is that okay? Or would you like me to read it out? Yeah.
No, just want to make sure that was the one. Sometimes I get lost in the papers. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Eyre. Councillor Duffy, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Only very briefly to say thank you to all of the community volunteers and experts that form our advisory committees. They give up their time and they share their expertise for the benefit of our community, and to the staff at council who help facilitate those meetings, and to the councillors who participate in them as well. So that's all I'd like to say regarding that today.
Thanks, Councillor Duffy. Councillor Eyre.
No, I don't need to add anything further.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other councillor wishing to speak? We'll put the motion to vote. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the annual financial report and performance statement 2020-21.
I'm happy to do that one too, Mayor.
Yep, no worries, Councillor Duffy.
Okay, so the recommendation for the annual financial report and performance statement 2020 to 2021 is that council firstly approves in principle the 2020 to 2021 annual financial report as per the attachment, and the 2020-2021 performance statement as per the attachment. And secondly, authorises the Mayor, Deputy Mayor and the Chief Executive Officer to sign the 2020-2021 annual financial report and the 2020-2021 performance statement in their final form after any changes recommended or agreed to by the auditor have been made.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Looking for a seconder.
Happy to second that.
Thanks, Councillor Payne. Back to you, Councillor Duffy, if you should speak to it.
Yeah, I will, thank you. Oops, okay. Just a couple of speaking points about this. Residents will be happy to know that council is required to produce an annual financial report containing audited financial statements and an audited performance statement according to the Local Government Act and requirements. These draft statements have been reviewed by external auditors and council's Audit and Risk Committee, which has a number of experts on it. And the Audit and Risk Committee has recommended that council approves these documents prior to their presentation to the Victorian Auditor General. So managing the money is something that all residents want to know we are doing with acumen and honour. And as a collective of councillors, I'm happy to speak for all of us here to say that with a small rate base, every dollar is important, and it's critical to us that the money is spent wisely. Our income statement for 2021 shows 61 million roundabouts from rates and charges. So this is a thank you to the community for your contributions to enable council to provide the services to you that we do, especially during this time of COVID-19. I'd also like to acknowledge and thank the Victorian Government for the $21+ million of grant funding that they've provided to Nillumbik Council, and also extend this acknowledgement and thanks to the federal government for the over $5 million grant funding that they've also provided to council for the year that's just ended 30 June 2021. And this wouldn't just happen. There's a team that does this, and I'd really like to give a big shout out and thank you to Vince Lombardi, Council's Chief Financial Officer, and Malika Simna, I'm going to mispronounce your name, I'm going to try hard here, Malika Sukunda, and the finance team for the very detailed work that you do to support council.
Thanks, Councillor Duffy. Would the seconder like to speak?
No.
Nope. Any other councillor? I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? It's unanimously carried. Thank you. On to the next report, which is the Audit and Risk Committee meeting of August 2021. Looking for a motion, Councillor Eyre.
Thank you. The recommendation that council notes the minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee meeting held on the 23rd of August 2021 in attachment 1.
Thanks, Councillor Eyre. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Egan. Back to you, Councillor Eyre.
Thank you. This is a compliance and statutory process, really. It's just bringing the minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee meeting here so that the community can also see it, and that it shows all of the items that have been discussed, which is really important in that we have such a range of highly qualified professionals on this committee, and they overview council and review to make sure that we're on track. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ian. Councillor Egan?
No.
Any other councillor? Yeah, look, I've been on council for a little while, but this is the first year I've had the opportunity to be on the Audit and Risk Committee, and it's certainly taught me a lot, and it gives us a good heads up what's happening in the background sometimes in council. Importantly for this council, all councillors are able to attend the Audit and Risk Committee, and many have and do attend these frequent meetings. But there's certainly a very good meeting, and it's a very strong committee with some really robust external consultants and members who do really provide some very, very strong, independent advice. They're certainly not championing any cause, but if there's something that they see that needs to be cleaned up a little bit, they're right on top of it. And a lot of, well, not a lot of, but some of the directions that that council ultimately get come as a result of recommendations from this committee. So it's a great committee, and endorse the motion. I'll put the motion to the vote. It's all those in favour, and it's carried. It's unanimous. The Eltham Town Centre Local Area Traffic and Pedestrian Cycling Improvements, the Urban Congestion Fund, is next. Councillors, and looking for a motion. Councillor Payne.
Happy to move the motion. Yep. So I'd like to move the recommendation that Council 1 endorses the Eltham Urban Congestion Fund Consultation Summary Report, which is attachment 1, and uploads this to the Participate Nillumbik webpage. 2, resolves to implement the Eltham Urban Congestion Fund projects as modified following the community consultation. And 3, advises all submitters in writing of Council's decision.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Do we have a seconder?
Happy to second that.
Councillor Duffy, thank you. And back to Councillor Payne.
Just a few comments to say that this has been a great example of community consultation. It's something that the new local laws have been emphasising, that we reach out to the community for something that affects them. It resulted in many engaged submitters. The proposals have been modified or amended or in fact abandoned in some cases, and many major changes were supported by the submitters. I'd like to thank Lawrence and the transport team and all the submitters for their suggestions. And I wish infrastructure and the transport team, Yalma and everyone involved in infrastructure, good luck as they turn these plans into finished products. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Councillor Duffy.
I'd like to add to that with this Urban Congestion Fund, one of the things that's been highlighted is the need to get people out of cars as well, and the attention that's going on to fixing the Diamond Creek Trail and the work that still needs to be done with that. So we have the idea of a missing link. The Diamond Creek Trail, as it goes through the Eltham Town Centre, gets a little bit lost and muddled. And so that's something that, we need to do some more work on, and that's going to come out of there is some work that's happening with this fund, which is fabulous to see. But one of the other things that's come out of this is that we really need to address the western side, like a solution to the western side of the railway, going from Railway Parade through to the Eltham Central Oval. So I'd like to make sure that we keep that on the radar, listening to what people have had to say. And, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Any other councillor wishing to speak? Councillor Eyre.
Yes, thanks. I think for something so complex as this as well, we've been really fortunate that we were able to do the consultation in person for the most part. That was between lockdowns 5 and 6, I believe. I think I've got the dates right. So I think that made it a lot easier for community to be able to speak with officers as well, and actually stand in the locations where changes were to be made. And I think that made a massive difference to being able to receive feedback from people and for community to feel more confident with giving their views on changes. And I'm just so excited about this, and to see that we can try and get more pedestrians and cyclists through into Eltham more safely. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor E. Any other councillor? Yeah, this council made a point when we began to putting community at the centre of what we do, and particularly around engagement and consultation. And this is probably the model of what it should look like. The officers have done a great job, and so have the councillors. And congratulate you too, Councillor Payne, in terms of the videos that you've produced and you do produce. They hit the mark. They're short. They're sharp. They get the message across, and they've been very well received. They certainly help processes like this. And also your ward meeting, I understand, went very, very well, and gave the opportunity for people to engage and ask questions of officers and have those questions answered. So, this has been a great process. I think 229 individual contributors with a total of nearly 900 contributions altogether. It's a 6-week consultation period, but certainly lots of feedback received and lots of amendments made to the plan as a result of that consultation. So the report is fantastic. It's well worth looking at, and I hope that this can be the model for how we do it, because the traffic guys have nailed this one, I think. So very happy to support the motion. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? And it's carried unanimously. We're on to now the draft climate action plan for public exhibition. And I'm looking to Councillor Ramcharan.
Thank you. I'd like to move that Council endorses the draft Climate Action Plan 2022 to 2032 in Attachment 1, including an acknowledgement of climate emergency for the purpose of public exhibition. 2, invites written submissions on the draft Climate Action Plan 2022 to 2032 to Council between the 4th of October and the 7th of November 2021. 3, considers public submissions at the Planning and Consultation Committee meeting to be held in February 2022. And 4, notes that any person who makes a written submission in relation to the draft Climate Action Plan 2022 to 2032 and requests to be heard in support of their written submission be heard at the February 2022 Planning and Consultation Committee meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Ramcharan. Do we have a seconder? I've got Councillor Duffy. Councillor Ramcharan.
Thank you. And I think from the 3 raised hands there, just to second the motion, it shows that people really do care about this issue. It's an issue that incites a lot of despair in a lot of people, and also a lot of hope. For me, as a 25-year-old, as a young person, my generation and younger generations have to live with the fact that, our future might not be so bright. And who knows what the world's going to be like when I reach my 50s, 60s, 70s. It really is, it's terrifying for people in my generation, and something we think about a lot, or at least I do. But I have hope, and reading the draft climate action plan that officers have put together, I really hope that gives the community hope as well, to see that even if it's just one local council among many, we are taking strong action on this. I really am pleased with the draft climate action plan that officers have put together, and I'd like to thank the team who did it. They put in a huge amount of work consulting with councillors. They were running workshops with councillors and did a huge amount of community consultation through a survey many months ago. And what they've been able to put together has been really fantastic. And it gives me hope. It shows that we can fight this. We can fight climate change, and we can have ambitious targets. There are some very ambitious targets in the plan. We hope that we're able to meet them, and as part of the plan, we'll be doing what we need to do to reach those targets. They are slightly more ambitious than the targets that Victoria has set as state targets, and I think that's really important, because it means that the work we're doing is actually making a difference. Rather than backing up what's already been decided, we're actually saying, well, no, we need to do better than that, and laying out a plan for how we do that. The other thing is the plan does acknowledge that we're or proposes at least to acknowledge that we're in a state of climate emergency. There's obviously been a lot of debate as to whether or not we should say that and whether we should use the word declare or the word acknowledge. And I think we've had some very robust conversations as a council as to which way to go on that one. At the end of the day, as far as I'm concerned, what's important is that we tell the truth by using the term climate emergency and tell the truth that that is the situation we're in, which is why I support using that climate emergency language. In terms of using the word acknowledge or declare, I know a lot of people feel quite strongly about that one way or the other. As far as I'm concerned, it's not really all that important to quibble over one word. So I'm happy with either word personally, and I look forward to seeing what we hear from community consultation, because any part of this plan is up for change if that's what the community wants. So we can always change that around, but at the moment we're going with acknowledge, or at least that's the proposal in the plan. But the important thing is that we are saying climate emergency, saying that perhaps ugly word, but we're saying it all the same because it's important that we tell the truth. That's the first step. We have to tell the truth. We have to take strong action. They're two of the biggest things that governments need to do right now in order to combat this crisis. So I'm really pleased to be putting this motion forwards. I can't wait to see what the community has to say about our climate action plan, and I hope we can get some more suggestions so we can make it even stronger. And I'd like to thank, again, all the officers for working with us so collaboratively on this, and all the councillors for the amount of effort and the amount of time we've all spent discussing this and putting together a plan that I think we can all really be proud of. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Antran. Councillor Duffy.
Yes, thank you. Just to follow on from what Councillor Antran has said, there's been a lot of community input into this draft. There's been community views gathered, advisory committees, councillors, workshops, etc. But one of the things that's really important to me is hearing from the community. So this last community consultation is really important. So I encourage people to have a look at the document and see whether it ticks the boxes that you would like it to tick. There has been conjecture over declaring a climate emergency or acknowledging one. I hear that, and I would be very keen to hear what people have to say about that. But I do agree with Ben that climate emergency is important, and it's the action that we take that's most important rather than quibbling over the words. I'd just like to read a little extract from a letter that I received from a resident. This woman her daughter was really deliberating over whether to have a child or not, being so mindful of what's happening in the climate space. And, I'll just read a little bit. I won't read the whole lot because it will go for longer than 3 minutes. So the writer said, I work as a climate resilience consultant. In 2019, I had a mental health crisis as to if it is a good idea or even ethical to have children with the way the world is. After seeing a psychologist to whom I gave eco-anxiety, speaking to many loved ones, colleagues and peers going through the same thing, I came to the point of peace. One night I had a couple of glasses of wine and penned this letter to my future child. This letter was written before COVID-19. It was dated the 7th of October 2019. To my future child, to the baby you will be, to the kid I will teach, to the teenager who will set new boundaries, to the adult you will become. You will have to live in this world that we are creating. I and your father and our whole generation are being handed a huge lumbering system that seems intent on eating your future to satisfy its own needs for today. We are doing what we can, but I am afraid, so desperately scared, that life will never be as good as it is right now. That for the first time in human history, our children will not have better lives than we do. For the past decade or so, that thought has been an abstraction, but now it's becoming real and clear and hard and ever so terrifying, because it's going from an abstract thought to an actual person, to you. The truth is that I do not know what the world will look like in 80, 50, or even 30 years' time. I spend my work days trying to prepare our cities, businesses, and governments for the challenges ahead. But the biggest unknown in all of this is how human societies together will evolve to cope or break down with something new created from the ashes. I don't know what you will have to face, and that scares me more than anything, because the one thing I wanted for any child of mine is that you will be able to flourish, to explore, pursue your dreams, make silly decisions, pick yourself up, and throw yourself into all that this beautiful, complex, confronting and unique world has to offer you. There's just a little bit more, if I could get to that. The letter goes on to say, to choose what you want to be.
Councillor Duffy, three minutes is the time period. Perhaps.
Okay. Well, just to finish off, I think with our draft climate plan, setting a net zero council emissions by 2030 and community emissions by 2035 will help allay this resident who has fears of a ruinous trajectory. So that is doom and gloom, but I'm hoping we can be more positive with what we actually do.
Lots of echoing anxiety there. Any other councillor wishing to speak?
Just quickly.
Yep.
Just wanted to say I don't have a letter to read out. I'm not sure how scary the trajectory is. I think the words climate emergency are there to send a message to state and federal governments, particularly the federal government, that we need to do something. That's clearly what people are saying, do something. And we are taking actions to make sure that we will mitigate the effect of emissions and acknowledge that something needs to be done. And at the moment, state and local governments are doing all the heavy lifting when it comes to climate change action. And really, that's why a small shire like ours, a small council like ours, has the audacity to acknowledge a climate emergency. People will ask, what difference do we make? It's because many local councils and governments make this change that we send the message and it becomes the norm. And really, that's why we're doing it. So that's all I wanted to add.
Thanks, Councillor Payne. Any other Councillor Eyre, sorry.
Thank you. I won't speak for long because everyone's covered pretty much everything I wanted to say. But really, I just wanted to reiterate that the community have told us that they want this, and so we are listening. We've done our best to put this together, but now it's also up to the community to have a look and check that we're on track and give us some feedback. And looking forward to reviewing that when we get all the feedback from community. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Eyre. No other councillors wishing to speak? Look, I'll just sort of say, like all issues, there are extremes of everything. Councillor Duffy, that's the first time I've heard of people, trying to make that very difficult decision about bringing a child into the world, and the fact that climate change bears on that. The other thing you said about was eco anxiety, another new term for me. The state government have made some ambitious targets in terms of its action plan for climate change and reduction of emissions, and I think they've been ambitious. We've been even more ambitious. I think we can, if the state can, we can always, I think, in most things exceed the target set by the state. That's certainly been shown in this current COVID pandemic with our vaccination rates. We're a fairly affluent, wealthy and educated community. So I think if any municipality can lead the way here, I'm sure it will be Nillumbik. That'll be shown over time. But it's certainly a good foundation now on which to build. Climate action plan is not new to council. There's many things that council have done over many years, but this is probably the most ambitious and sets the most sort of concrete targets. So good work, council, in terms of being involved heavily throughout the development of this plan, and thanks again to officers. Just like to echo those comments from councillors. If there's no other councillor wishing to speak, we'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? And it's carried. It's unanimous. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the CEO Remuneration and Employment Policy. And Councillor Egan.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move a motion that Council adopts the Chief Executive Officer Employment and Remuneration Policy, Attachment 1, created in accordance with Section 45 of the Local Government Act 2020.
Thank you, Councillor Egan. Do we have a seconder? I've got Councillor Payne. Councillor Egan, did you wish to speak to it?
Just to explain really what this is sort of the final wrap up of a process that all of the councillors have been going through since they got on board or elected, nearly 12 months ago. And it's all to relate to our wonderful CEO, Carl Cowie, who's online. And it's everybody, every single councillor has actually been on the committee this term, which has been fantastic. So everybody has input into the CEO performance review, etc. Everybody's had input, and that's sort of really about it. I can't go into the details, obviously, because they're confidential, but it's about supporting the CEO in what he does and guiding him, giving him KPIs, things like that. And all I can say is he more than lives up to it. So well done, Carl.
Thanks, Councillor Egan. Councillor Payne, did you speak? Any other councillor wish to speak to the item? If not, I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? And it's unanimously carried. Thank you. Next, we're on to the Curbside Waste Collection Service 12-month review. Looking for a motion, I've got Councillor Payne.
Thank you, Mayor Perkins. I'd like to move the motion that Council 1 notes this report on the first 12 months operation of the Curbside Waste Collection Service, including implementation of new waste bin options and trends in curbside waste tonnages and ongoing service improvement opportunities. And 2, receives a further report on the outcome of the statewide procurement for recycling processing services.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Do I have a seconder? Right, Councillor Entran. Thanks, Councillor Entran. Back to you, Councillor Payne.
I just wanted to thank the workers of JJ's Waste and Recycling. They were JJ Richards Proprietary Limited. They've changed their name. Same company. No pun intended. They've been doing the heavy lifting of waste and recycling, and it's an area that is undergoing massive change at the moment right across Metro Melbourne. And I look forward to Nillumbik upholding its position as an early adopter of recycling measures, and going forward that we can also adopt the best practice methods of waste recycling and waste management. So I thank them for their work and the council officers who engaged them in the first place.
Thanks, Councillor Payne. Councillor Entran. Any other councillor wishing to speak? Look, Councillor Duffy.
Thank you. Just to add into this, I have a heavy heart with this 12-month review because the waste services were previously undertaken by council staff, and this contract outsourced that function so that the people that are doing it are doing a good job. I'm not doubting that at all. But I just still feel that it is a shame when council has employees that we let go of when there is lots of knowledge. And as a business, I think it's a really good thing for us to be employing people in our area rather than outsourcing functions to businesses. So, it's with that in mind that I just like to acknowledge the staff that used to do this job for many, many years. And Gary, who was the garbo who collected my garbage on the last day of the contract when it was being operated by Nillumbik employees. That was the only thing I wanted to say. Just a shout out to the people who've done this role for many, many years prior to this new contract.
Thanks, Councillor Duffy. Any other councillor? Look, I'll probably just sort of say this did come to council like in a briefing session a month or two back, and I thought it was important to bring it to the full council meeting just so the public can see how the curbside waste collection service is tracking. It's certainly one of the big ticketed items. It's most people see council's roles as roads, rates and rubbish, but certainly rubbish is the one that affects everybody. We understand now rubbish to be more than landfill. It's recycling and dealing with food organics as well. You can see through this report the new customised options. So along with the new contract, there were some customised options, and you can sort of you can track how popular some of those customised options have been. To me, there was a lot of noise in the previous council about weekly landfill collection across the Shire. That was apparently put by some as a big need. There's 68 households who have taken that offer up. The waste tonnages we can see broadly, a large increase in food organics, a marginal increase in recycling, and a decrease in landfill. And landfill's the really important one we're trying to track and keep those diversion rates up. So trying to stop as much of anything going to landfill, trying to recycle. And it's become clear that the biggest issue we have is contamination in our recycling bins, and a lot of that is through people using plastic bags. So collecting their recyclables in a plastic bag, throwing the plastic bag with the recyclables in the bin, which more often not contaminates the whole bin, if not a large part of the truckload. So that's one big issue. The other thing that we've found since the fires and the loss of the ability to be able to send recyclables overseas, our recycling providers have changed what they will and won't accept. They were accepting Tetra Paks, they're not anymore. They were accepting plastic bags, crunched up all together in the recycling, they're not anymore. So it is confusing. It's a real challenge for council to keep that engagement and story told in terms of things change. And it's very hard to educate people as to what the current rules are with relation to recycling. It's not, council don't make these decisions. It's the people that process the material. They're the ones making decisions about what they will and won't take, and the stuff that they don't take ends up going to landfill. And unfortunately, if there's a lot of that in a particular truckload, it's too hard for them to sort it all out. The whole truckload goes to landfill. There is also the issue with the state government increasing the landfill levy year upon year, and that's a consistent trend. I'm out of time. I'll certainly endorse the motion, but put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? And it's carried unanimously. And we're on to the next item, which is the Bushfire Mitigation or Fire Prevention Works Program 2021-22. And Councillor Egan.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move a motion that Council notes the Bushfire Mitigation Works Program 21-22, Attachment 1, notes that as part of the annual review process, the Neighbourhood Safer Places, bushfire places of last resort located at Diamond Hills Reserve Oval, Greensborough, the Outdoor Performance Centre, Greensborough, Diamond Creek Community Centre, Diamond Creek, Yarrambat Park Golf Course Club Rooms, Yarrambat, Hurstbridge Basketball Stadium, Hurstbridge, car park between Arthur and Dudley Streets, Eltham, and finally Colindina Reserve, Greensborough, have all been reassessed by the CFA and have been found to meet the criteria for designation as a neighbourhood safer place. In other words, bushfire place of last resort. 3, publishes the Bushfire Mitigation Works Program 21-22 on Council's website.
Thank you, Councillor Egan. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Eyre. Thanks, Councillor Eyre. Back to you, Councillor Egan.
Thanks, Mayor. Many people in the Shire are probably already aware that every year the CFA has to assess our places of last resort. And Council's required to record the outcome of the assessment, and currently all sites have been assessed as being compliant. Along with that, we have a list of works that Council is undertaking, which has been informed by the MFMP 2020-23. And that's a process of identification of priority roads and treatments that need to be applied to these roads. So in other words, it's things like box cutting through the roads, it's roadside clearing, there's a whole program of works, and you'll find on the website the list of all of those. But it's what we do every year to help mitigate the risk of bushfire in our Shire, which, as everybody is probably or should be aware, is absolutely huge. It also goes into things like power lines. You'll see a lot of the local companies are working alongside roads and have been all winter on trees that are growing up under power lines, because there's now a real insurance risk there. And obviously, as we know, from Black Saturday, a risk of ignition points from trees and things like that, starting fires along power lines. So there's a whole, I won't go into too many details because there's so much involved. There's slashing, proactive tree assessment. There's a whole raft of issues. And to be quite honest, it's something that we actually need to increase in the coming years in terms of, from a budget point of view, so that the Shire is protected as much as we can and mitigate the risk of bushfire as much as we can. It has been increased in the last term of council, and I'd like to see it increased again so that we're as safe as we possibly can be. And this is one area where we can be proactive. There are a lot of areas where we can't, but this is one area where we can be. That's about all I've got to say at the moment. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Egan. Councillor Eyre.
Thank you.
Any other councillor? Councillor Duffy.
I just will be very brief. I agree with everything that Karen has just said in terms of bushfire mitigation. And I remember the terrible day back in 2009 when the bushfires happened here in Nillumbik. One of the things that I'm wanting to make sure that we do in a balanced way is look at how we implement the bushfire mitigation works program in the rural part, the urban parts of Nillumbik, because some of the treatments in the urban parts could be different to the treatments in the rural parts. And I'm just wanting to make sure that on some of our urban streets, we don't end up having what looks like a queue golf course on our the verges of roads. I'd still like them to be able to be reflective of Nillumbik in areas that are not bushfire prone, but I still take the bushfire risk here very seriously. I don't want that to be questioned at all. It's just wanting to make sure that we do this in a balanced measure and we take the advice from the experts in that too.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Any other councillor wishing to speak? Yeah, it's a comprehensive list. It's a lot of work that officers do, and with the help of contractors each year. And it's a list that does grow, year upon year. Every year there are new areas identified that need work, or other areas that need more work than in the past. In terms of, I'm not disagreeing with Councillor Duffy's points, but in terms of bushfire, it's not about the passage of a fire front necessarily. Sometimes it's about embers and the risk that fire spotting can cause in the urban areas, particularly when fire services are stretched, and even in the heart of Eltham or Diamond Creek, you may not get a fire truck because the resources are all committed. Little way up the road. I note with the bushfire, the neighbourhood safer places, bushfire places of last resort, they were put in about a year after Black Saturday, and they really speak to the high risk areas in Nillumbik. Out of the 7, there were 3 around the Plenty Gorge on the the eastern side, or the downwind side of the Plenty Gorge, and one's in Yarrambat Park Golf Course Club Rooms. The other one is Diamond Hills Reserve, and one, of course, at the Outdoor Performance Centre in Greensboro. And we know that spot well. That's the amphitheatre, where there's some other plans that we're discussing almost as we speak, almost daily. But those places of last resort speak to the high bushfire risk that there is in the Plenty Gorge, really the inability for anyone to really effectively manage that vegetation, because it is effectively, state park, and the topography there, and the really close proximity to medium to high density residential living. Of course, there are other parts of Nillumbik that experience as high a bushfire risk, if not more high bushfire risk, but they don't have as many residents impacting all in the one spot. So what the bushfire places of last resort generally do, it gives people somewhere to go if every other plan fails. It's certainly not encouraging people to make an early evacuation or a late evacuation to these places. It's just often an open clearing or a building that will provide some measure of protection from radiant heat. If every other plan you have made has failed. Yeah, look, officers do great work in this place, in this space. They've done it for a long time. There's no guarantees that we'll be able to prevent a large scale fire, but we're certainly doing our best, and the weather certainly does dictate a lot of what happens. I'm at a time. I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? And it's carried unanimously. We'll move on to the draft youth strategy. Councillor Ramcharan, I think you indicated a desire to move this one.
I did, as councillor appointed to the Youth Council. So I'd like to move that Council endorses the draft youth strategy 2022 to 2026 in attachment 1 for the purposes of public consultation. 2, invites written submissions on the draft youth strategy to Council by the 21st of October 2021. And 3, considers public submissions at the Planning and Consultation Committee meeting to be held on the 16th of November 2021.
Thanks, Councillor Ramcharan. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Payne? Back to you, Councillor Ramcharan.
Thank you. Well, I really am in awe at the youth team who've put this together. We've got a fantastic youth council. It's the first youth council we've had at Nillumbik, being run by the communities team, and they really have put together such a fantastic team of young people to do this work. So the team ran a survey of all the young people in Nillumbik. It was a huge project, and they did such a good job to get so much information, such a broad variety of information from our young people about what they want to see us doing for them. And what this plan does is it really gives us the direction, and it presents all the research that's been done by the Youth Council in a form that, in an action form that shows what we can do as a council, what we can start doing, what we can change in order to better support young people in Nillumbik. And as a 25-year-old, I'm still a young person, at least for the next couple of months. I believe I'm no longer considered a young person after this year, but for now I am still a young person, and it really has been great to see such a fantastic team putting together the strategy. So it's meant a lot to me to be part of that. So thank you to the Youth Council, and thank you to the officers who helped with this. So the Youth Council did have some pretty ambitious targets for their survey, which they ran in putting this strategy together. And I believe those targets were reached. And I believe the Youth Council was promised laser tag if the targets were reached, and also that councillors may have been invited to that as well, although unfortunately that happened right before lockdown 5. So laser tag hasn't happened yet. Hopefully it will happen in the near future, because I think that would be a fantastic way of celebrating our wins. And yeah, I'm looking forward to what we get from this next round of public consultation, getting some broader involvement and some more specific comments from people across Nillumbik, so we can really fine tune this strategy. And yeah, looking forward to getting it published, to getting it finalised later this year.
Thank you, Councillor Ramcharan. Councillor Payne.
I would just like to echo Councillor Ramcharan's comments. I'd like to commiserate Councillor Ramcharan on leaving youth and moving into the old person category. You have so much to enjoy as you move into the old person category. Really, this is all about inviting the community to have their say about youth issues and a youth strategy. And we are on the lookout for a youth hub, and there could be more than one across the Shire. So that's what we're looking for people to do, to tell us what's going on. So please get involved in the strategy. And once again, I'd like to thank the youth team, Councillor Ramcharan, of course, the Youth Council, Yakvik, and all the submitters. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Any other councillor wishing to speak? Councillor Eyre.
Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge all the hard work that's gone in from the Youth Council and all their supporting officers. Thank you to all of you, and for also putting your hand up to be nominated to be on the Youth Council. It's not an easy thing to give up your time, but to take that step. What we heard from the initial survey is that mental health is one of the biggest issues, and I think climate change was following. So I'm hoping that we get a really good response in supporting this, and if there's any suggestions, because I'd really like to see, and I know that other councillors and the community would really like to see, particularly after pandemic, which has heightened a lot of mental health issues, that we can really support our young people. And it's really, really important that we do that properly. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. Any other councillor wishing to speak? Look, I'll just say that, certainly endorse the motion, the work done by both the Youth Council and officers in this place. Councillor is spot on in terms of the mental health needs of the broader community generally, but particularly the young people. You can crystal ball that if the federal government are going to give some stimulus funding, leading into the next federal election and beyond, you would imagine it might be around mental health outcomes, particularly mental health in youth. Particularly in Victoria, so many people have been locked down for so long. People have gone through VCE. I've got a mate who's both boys have not spent most of their VCE year at school and had to work in isolation. Other people coming up through the school system are having a very, very different experience to what anyone has in the past. We know that a lot of businesses have failed or will fail. So not only have people lost jobs, but those opportunities that would have been available potentially to our youth are no longer there. We've got the higher education system that is going, Councillor Payne will probably know more than I do, but marked changes in the way that they have to operate. La Trobe Uni have had to decimate their staff numbers as a result of losing, international students. I think that's had a massive impact. So there are so many impacts that this pandemic has had on our community that it's going to be hard to know where to start, to be honest. We're doing our best, but I'm just conscious that, there is a federal election coming up and we're finalising our advocacy plans now, but I think mental health broadly and particularly for the youth needs to be an area that we need to do some strong advocacy for, and I hope that the community does that with potential federal MPs coming to the next election as well. That's probably all I wanted to say. I know I had a conversation with the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Eyre, recently on this matter, and she reminded me, because she used to work for Nillumbik Council in the communities team, and she reminded me what happened with Nillumbik after Black Saturday. The state government funded about 16 positions, contracted positions that went on for some years, 2 or 3 years. So we had a whole heap of people working for council that were funded by the state to assist in that recovery process. That's what we need. That's what we need on a much broader scale to do with this pandemic. Council is here. We have those connections to be able to reach out and assist people, but we certainly need the funding, and we need positions for at least a few years. And I think the Black Saturday model worked well. I've run out of time again. I'm speaking more than I should tonight, but anyway, we'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? And it's unanimous. Thank you. On we go. Now we get to the future use of the Plenty Fire Station site. This one's close to Councillor Stockman's heart. So I'll looking for a motion. I think Councillor Stockman's going to.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor Perkins. I'd like to move the motion that Council adopts the recommendation the Council commences a community engagement process as outlined in Attachment 2, Community Engagement Plan, to seek ideas from Nillumbik community to inform the future use of the old Plenty Fire Station site. 2, considers public submissions at the Planning and Consultation Committee meeting to be held on the 16th of November 2021. And 3, notes that any person who makes a submission in relation to the old Plenty Fire Station site and requests it to be heard in support of their submission be heard at the November 2021 Planning and Consultation Committee meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Stockman. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Aird, thank you. Back to you, Councillor Stockman.
Thanks, Mayor Perkins. Yeah, look, I think this is a really great thing that we've got some consultation here, and there's obviously a lot of processes in council, and for the people in Plenty that certainly feel like they haven't had their voices heard in some areas, this has come out to consultation, and this is your opportunity to get involved. And what happens then is this consultation goes back, and councillors can take it in whichever way. And hopefully, if there's enough consultation, it'll influence councillors to make a decision. So this is the process, and I do, I'm glad that we got to this stage with this particular issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stockman. Councillor Aird.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to just say that it would be great to hear from community, but I also wanted them to know that there's a clean slate. There's no one has priority over or any decisions that have been made. So please put in your ideas or submit, talk to officers, speak through the engagement, and that way we can hear exactly what you want to happen with this space. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Aird. Any other councillor wishing to speak? Just quickly myself, because I know a bit about this background, and it's certainly in the report. But Plenty Fire Station, it's currently an active fire station. The volunteers are still working out of that station while the new one is being built further up Memorial Drive. But that fire station, a long time ago, was built on council land, and the land was leased to CFA for a peppercorn rent, and they built a fire station on it. So that they've outgrown that fire station. It doesn't meet, it's got many issues in terms of being an operational fire station. They're building a new one. So now there's an option for CFA to actually revert that land back to what it was, back to public open space, or back to parkland, bring it back to the condition it was before the CFA built a fire station on it. Or the other option is that CFA can just hand the building over to council, and council can do with it what they will. So that's a decision council has to make. It has to be made soon, because it's around about the time that the new fire station is completed that we have to tell CFA what they need to do next. It's either get your stuff out of the building and hand it over, or demolish the building and return it back to parkland. So really, that's the decision that council has to make and probably make in the next few months. And so we're looking for the community, particularly the Plenty community, to be very engaged in this process, to let us know what are your plans for that site. Can you imagine good community uses for the building, or would you rather revert back to public open space and a park? So, I can say for one, I've sort of, while it would be a shame in some ways to lose the building, if the local community wanted to go back to park, well, it's probably more likely to go back to park, I would think. But that's really in the hands of the local community. But I'm just sort of conscious in knowing that it does cost a lot of money to build a building, and once that building goes, you would imagine there won't be anything built on that, for a long, long time, if ever. Well, you'd hope not anyway. But other processes do come up, and sometimes parks get built on. So the good thing about the engagement approach is that everyone in Plenty will get a letter. So there's a mail out to all Plenty residents and a hard copy of the survey. So it's certainly going to be a rigorous engagement process, and it's well done to the officers and Ricardo on the team and others who have set this out. And I think council will get a really good indication as what the local community, particularly the Plenty residents, want and expect for the future of this site. I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? And it's carried, and it's unanimous. And now we're on to the Growing Suburbs Fund 2021, the candidate projects for endorsement. And Councillor Eyre, there's a motion.
Thank you, Mayor. The motion that Council 1 endorses the following projects to be submitted for funding through the 2021 to 22 round of Growing Suburbs funds. So A, a single early years infrastructure upgrade project being either of and in order of grant funding priority. So the first one is Eltham Woods preschool upgrade, and the second is Diamond Hills preschool upgrade, and B, construction of the Hurstbridge men's shed. And 2, allocates a total council contribution of 0.7 million, 0.7 million to the early years infrastructure upgrade project and 0.3 million to the Hurstbridge men's shed. I hope I've said the amounts in the correct manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Egan. Back to you, Councillor Eyre.
Thank you. So with the Growing Suburbs Fund, it supports community infrastructure projects, and Nillumbik Shire Council has been very fortunate to have received funding over many years for different projects, which is amazing. So why we're putting forward the preschools, because the implementation of the state government's 3-year-old kindergarten program reform, which means all families with 3-year-old children can actually take their children to kinder in a funded program, which means that the kindergarten physical space will not meet the needs, and that could impact 4-year-old programs. So with the additional projects putting on extra space will allow more children to participate in the program. We don't want to see our children not being able to access this funded program. So Eltham Woods is also wanting to follow best practice guidelines by having 2 maternal child health nurses working together in the one location. At present, they only have 1 or space for 1. So that would include a space for that, other things as well, and including an additional room for activities such as new parents group or a play group, something similar to that line. And the same with the Diamond Hills preschool. For those who are not quite sure where they are, they're set up in behind the Melbourne Polytechnic, and they're also looking to increase their space for 3-year-old program and additional space for complementary programs in addition to other things as well. And the other project we're putting forward is the Hurstbridge men's shed, which is really exciting. They've been waiting a very, very, very long time. They are currently in the back of the Hurstbridge basketball stadium, and that was only ever supposed to be temporary. And the reason I know that is because I helped move them there when I was an officer, and that was only supposed to be for months, maybe a year at the most. It's been, I think Karen will be able to correct me, maybe 7 years now they've been waiting. Yep. And if we can see the how successful the other 3 men's sheds are and the capacity that they're at, Hurstbridge certainly could do with their own men's shed, but to support the men that are currently utilising this space. I won't say much more. I'll let Karen also speak as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Eyre, and over to you, Councillor Egan.
Thanks, Councillor Eyre. I won't talk about the kinders because you've done that eloquently. It's quite interesting because that's where I first met you when I went on council last term. And with all the work that you did with the men's sheds, not just Hurstbridge, but all of the others as well. So it's quite ironic that we're sitting here tonight. Hurstbridge is really quite dear to my heart because, well, apart from the fact that it's in my own ward, they're a very special group of guys. There's a lot of mental health issues there. The majority of them actually don't even drive, which is why it's so important to have the men's shed in Hurstbridge near the railway line, because that's how a lot of them get there. We've even got a couple of homeless guys who are members of that shed. So it's very, very different, a very, very different makeup to, say, the Eltham men's shed and Diamond Creek and even St Andrews. It's quite unique in the makeup of its members. I'd go so far as to say the majority of them have mental health issues, and I'm sure without, going into details, Francis will agree with me. So to finally get this off the ground and have the possibility of a grant being given to us to get this building built is really, really quite exciting. And I know it's that old adage, build it and they will come. The numbers will come because people keep wanting to join and there's nothing there. They can't use machinery because of the childcare centre about 3 metres away from their little room that they work out of at the moment. But they do some amazing stuff for the community already, everything from repairing kids' bikes to building possum boxes, a whole raft of issues. And these guys are really, really quite special. So it's really exciting. And it's not a lot of money. When Fran says 0.3 of a million, it sounds like a lot of money, but it's actually only 300,000. And I know I say only, when you're looking at a lot of sports facilities, when they're in the tens of millions of dollars, this is really, really quite tiny in comparison and will have as much, if not a bigger impact on these guys as a sports facility for kids. So I'm really quite excited that we might have a chance of finally getting, the ground turned and some shovels done and something actually happen there. It's a great site and there'll be a fantastic addition also to Araluen, who are right next door to them. They're really looking to come on board and work with the men's shed guys, and I can see a real synergy happening there between the two groups. So it's really, really exciting, and I'm hoping that with all the work that the staff have done in pushing this forward, that we can actually get it off the ground. So thank you to all the staff who've been assisting me with this over the last, it's been going on for 5 years. So this is 5 years of my work, and I know Fran was working on it before I got on council. So thanks again, Fran.
Thanks, Councillor Egan. Any other councillor wishing to speak? Look, just quickly, the motion is for grant funding to support, even though there's 3 projects listed, it's a single early years infrastructure upgrade project. So it's either going to be Eltham Woods preschool upgrade or Diamond Hills preschool upgrade. That's because the maximum amount of funding that we can get out of the GSF is 7.5 million, right? And the Eltham Woods preschool upgrade is 6.5 million. So, if we're lucky enough to get 6.5 million for that project, it knocks Diamond Hills preschool out at this stage. But, that's a very ambitious ask. Certainly, it's very justified, and the early years plan talks to it very well as what the need is there and the great outcome that will provide to the community. But if for whatever reason that one didn't get up, we've got high hopes that the Diamond Hills preschool upgrade will go ahead. And of course, it's a standalone project, the Hurstbridge Men's Shed. That's also very high priority. Recent conversations with Rob Mitchell a month or two ago, I was interested to hear that he's actually the co-chair of the Parliamentary Friends of Men's Sheds. So Rob Mitchell, the current MP for McEwen, is very active in that place and in that space. I know that he, at the time, he was asking about Hurstbridge Men's Shed and is very keen to assist in any way he could to see that come to fruition. So we've got a bit of a backup plan there. And if this project is like anything else, the costs blow out, and the $600,000 allocated or envisaged for the Hurstbridge Men's Shed might not be enough, but it'll certainly get things going. So the Growing Suburbs Fund, state government program, we've, I think, got about $38 million over the last, since the fund started. And I think one of the very first announcements that I attended that was part of the Growing Suburbs Fund, it was called something else at the time, but it was actually the playground that now sits as part of the Outdoor Performance Centre in Civic Drive. So that I think was one of the very first projects. I know Edendale got some money back then as well, but right across the Shire, we've been very, very fortunate with Growing Suburbs Fund, particularly with the help of our state members. So very happy to endorse the motion. I'll put it to the vote now. All those in favour? And it's carried. It's unanimous. Which everything has been tonight. It's great. The Diamond Creek Shared Trail Stage 2 contracts 1920 to 89 and 1920 to 90 contract variations. Councillor Egan, I've got you listed as moving this motion.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, another one of my pet projects that has been there since I first got on council, and one of the reasons I stood. This is more of a financial, I better move the recommendation first, sorry. That council authorises the CEO to approve contract variation payments for A, contract 1920-89, construction of the Diamond Creek Shared Trail Stage 2 for an additional 400,000 plus 20% contingency on the contract budget, and 2, contract 1920-90, Diamond Creek Trail Extension Stage 2, design and construction of 5 trail bridges for an additional 20% contingency on the contract budget.
Thank you, Councillor Egan. Do we have a seconder? And Councillor Payne. Thank you, Councillor Payne. Back to you, Councillor Egan.
Thank you, Mayor. I was getting carried away before. This is a financial recommendation with 2 particular contracts, and it all has to do with stage 2, which is from Wattle Glen to Hurstbridge, as most people know. So the first part is there's a whole lot of reasons why it's blown out. Poor site conditions. Also, when I first got on council, Councillor Clark and I did a whole lot of work in dealing with a lot of the landowners, and we changed the amount of land that was going to be acquired from council from the landowners and brought it back quite a lot. But even then, there were things like poor site conditions, heavily vegetated flood zones, especially up near Hurstbridge, that last little double loop on a couple of people's properties. It's actually floodplain land, and there were some alignment challenges and other site constraints. So because of all of that and the significant size of the actual project, the budget has blown out, and combined with a lot of the bad weather that we've had in the last year during COVID, things have cost a lot more, and we've had to do more concreting, etc., etc. So that's the reason for the first one. And the second contract, the increase in the contingency there, that's first of all, price of concrete's gone up. So I'm not sure whether there's any COVID correlations there because of all the building that's been going on. But the price of concrete's gone up, and steel as well. And again, the recent flooding events. So that actually isn't locked in, and we may not have to use it. But this is us giving staff and the CEO permission to use a contingency if it is required because of all of those issues. So that's basically what this motion is all about. And again, it's something I'm really, really excited about, getting to the end of this project. And I'm sure Councillor the Mayor is as well, because it's both of our wards, even though it goes on into the rest of Nillumbik and all the way into the city. This is something that goes back to Peter Brock. I mean, this is 20 plus years in the making. So it's there. I can see the light as we speak, and it's nearly finished. And again, coming out where it does in Hurstbridge, it's going to be a massive, massive boost to that little township, the traders and the tourism industry there, everybody who lives there. It's going to be absolutely amazing. So I'm really, really this is just another little step in the process of getting that project done. And I can't wait to see it finished, as I'm sure Councillor Perkins is extremely excited to see it finished as well. And I'm waiting till it is finished, and then I'll be riding my horse along there. So he better behave. So wait to see those photos. Thanks, Councillor Perkins.
Thank you, Councillor Egan. Councillor Payne, you wish to speak to the motion? Any other councillor wishing to speak? Yeah, look, it is a great project. It's very, very exciting. You know, there is a bit of a cost blowout, but you know, unfortunately, that's nothing unusual. We've come this far. We can't stop building now. You know, we did go through a tender process. You know, we awarded the tender, you know, for the right reasons, you know, cost being one of them, but also the ability to do the work and the standard of workmanship and all the rest of it. And yeah, until, as we're told so often, it's not until you actually start building something that you can actually get a true appreciation of what it's really going to cost. So the project is well progressed. You know, the end is in sight, but there is a shortfall, and we need to make that up. I couldn't help but sort of make a couple of notes when Councillor Egan was talking about. She did mention, you triggered me with, you made a mention of Councillor Clark as though he's still a councillor. Well, we know he's not. We know that he didn't stand for re-election at Nillumbik, but he did stand for election at the City of Melbourne and unfortunately was unsuccessful. So the former Councillor Clark, he moved off to, I think his holiday home in Mornington Peninsula somewhere, to join the other former councillor Rankin, and they're probably happily down there.
Yeah, there's two of them down there.
Yeah, lying on a beach somewhere down Mornington Peninsula, and I wish them well. It's a great spot for them. Lewis Brock, he was another one who was a councillor of Bunjil. So
he's in Perth.
Yeah, Peter Brock. Now Lewis was really passionate about this trail as well, and there's been a whole succession of councillors, and Lewis Brock was really fired up about.
He's coming back for the opening, Peter. I'll let you know, as long as he can travel.
And he's worked really well. Like the whole time with Helen and the Trailblazers Committee, they've done an enormous amount of work through this whole project for really literally 15 years, if not longer. And Nika van Helsen, she was obsessed with this trail. It's fair to say. She's a Dutch lady and a bit straight down the line, but she didn't mess around. This was the number one priority of council. How many times did I hear that? So she did great work, and so have you, Councillor Egan. And it's a credit to you all and to the community in Trailblazers, and it is getting very exciting as this project nears its completion. And then there'll be more. There'll be more trails to do. There's more public space.
Richard's hanging out for the aqueduct, really hanging out.
Richard wants an aqueduct. We know Councillor Duffy wants a missing link. The
missing links will get there.
Yeah. But this is a really significant thing that's taken many years and really full councils. It's fair to say. But so it's great, and I'm out of time. I'm going to put the motion to the vote, if that's okay. All those in favour? And it is carried unanimously. Thank you. And we're on to graffiti, the tender report, contract 2021-98, graffiti removal and management service.
Yes, Mayor Perkins, I'd like to move the motion.
Thanks, Councillor Payne.
The recommendation is that Council 1 accepts the tender submitted by the preferred tenderer for the schedule of rates disclosed in Attachment 1 and enter into the following contract, number 2021-098, titled Graffiti Removal and Management Service, term 1st of October 2021 to 30th of September 2024, options 2 by 1 year term extensions. 2, authorises the Executive Manager Planning and Community Safety to finalise and execute the contract documentation. 3, authorises the Executive Manager Planning and Community Safety to approve contract term extensions. 4, advises all tenderers accordingly. 5, makes the public decision regarding this contract, but the tender evaluation report, Attachment 1, remain confidential on the grounds specified in the definition of confidential information in Section 3(1)(g) of the Local Government Act 2020. And 6, resolves that the preferred tenderer be named.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Entran. Back to you, Councillor Payne.
I just wanted to say that this marks the change of a contractor, a service provider in terms of graffiti removal. And I would like to thank the current contractor for the years of service that they have put in. Great service that they have done to Nillumbik. Graffiti is a very complex problem. It's an ongoing issue, and it's difficult to control the expressions of people who demand attention but have nothing to say in terms of tagging graffiti. It's a real issue. So we are committed to keeping the Greenwich Shire as green as we can and as tag-free and graffiti-free as we can possibly be. And that's the result of the contract we have before us now. I'd like to thank Lance and the procurement team for this specialised and very tricky work they have to do assessing the different tenderers. It's a very complex job, and I thank them for that. So yes, I would like to wish the very best of luck to the current contractor, and shortly we'll be announcing the winning tenderer. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Sorry, the seconder, I didn't write your name down, but Councillor Entran.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, look, I'll just echo what Councillor Payne said. Our current contractor has really done a fantastic job. Graffiti really is a complicated issue, and we've we've done some amazing things here in Nillumbik, identifying perpetrators, cleaning it up. The current contractor has been really passionate, and I'd like to thank him for all the work he's done for us. Really excited to be moving on to a new contract now, and a bigger organisation with maybe some more resources, and see what they're able to bring to the service. So that'll be a really positive thing. Yeah, I think this is a good move. It's something that this council's been quite thorough with making this decision, and I think we've ended up with a good result. So thank you to the officers for the work you've all done on this. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Antran. Any other councillor? Councillor Duffy.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to echo the comments of other councillors, and I'd like to acknowledge David and Galen Black of Rapid Apprehension Systems. You know, they've contacted councillors, and I've been witness to the work that they've done in the months that I've been a councillor and prior to becoming one. They have been the backbone of graffiti control in Nillumbik Shire for the past 12 years. You know, they're a small business and they've worked in the Shire since 2009. When they first partnered with council to work in this space of graffiti control, I've been told that the Shire was under attack from well-established graffiti crews, like it was on walls, bridges, signs, skate parks everywhere, and that David and Galen introduced a plan to tackle this. Nillumbik had, at the time, councillors have received information from them saying that it was proportionately the worst set of conditions that they'd witnessed in any of the councils that they'd worked with, and they'd worked in this space for a long time. I think one of the sad things about moving into a new arrangement, and I understand that there are reasons for why this is happening, is that, for these people, they've done an excellent job, and they've done that in a dedicated way for 12 years. They're a small business in a time when we're really trying to support small businesses. As a council, we have to do the right thing by our money and, follow the correct tender processes and all of those sorts of things. So, Rapid Apprehension System, advised councillors that it was with absolute and total regret that they made the choice not to submit a tender in this recent independent tender process. And I think the thing for me is that, what stands out to me about what they've done is they've shown dedication and commitment to our Shire. They say that, some people might say that it's foolish that they made Nillumbik Shire their only client over recent years. And they did that with, the dilemma that they're facing now, that they won't have the work from our Shire. But they said that they did that as a conscious choice back in 2016 to absolutely focus on one client for one good reason. They simply wanted to dedicate all of their specialist equipment and knowledge into one special client, and that was us. So our communities benefited from the work that these people have done in early mornings, on weekends, late at night. And, they've really tried to be a bit different in the way they've operated in trying to help elevate graffiti removal so that it focuses on, reducing offences and trying to help reduce youth criminality and to help the police in tracking down who these offenders are. So, I just really think that they need to be given a big shout out for the work that they've done. And, for the new tenderer that comes in, I hope that they can follow in their footsteps and do a great job, because our community wants to see Nillumbik looking clean and pristine and something we can be proud of, rather than having graffiti around the place. So thank you to David and Galen Black of Rapid Apprehension System.
Thanks, Councillor Duffy. Any other councillor wishing to speak? Councillor Stockman.
I'd just like to say good luck to the new winner of the tenderer, but also just well said there by Councillor Duffy, and virtually you said what I would like to say as well as you say it, but thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor Stockman. Councillor Egan.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I'd also like to, I know Natalie's probably said it all already, but being on the previous council as you were too, Councillor Perkins, we both saw firsthand the impact that this amazing duo had on the whole Shire, and it's really sad that as a result of bureaucracy and red tape, really, and the tender process of which a small company can't actually abide by, and that's part of being a local government organisation, and being, the increase in what the Local Government Act has put upon us. It knocks out some of these smaller boutique type companies, and they just don't have the ability to tender for works like this. So it's really, really with a heavy heart that I'll be voting on this, as I'm sure you all will be, because they've made such an amazing difference on the Shire. I mean, especially in the rural area, that the amount of graffiti just reduced dramatically. And the fact that they actually caught the people that were doing a lot of it was just an added bonus. And they weren't who we thought they would be. They weren't the young teenagers, you know, out on the town. They were a whole other demographic, which was a bit of an eye-opener. But I'd like to wish them all the best and hope that they are okay in the future. And it's really with a heavy heart that I'll have to vote on this, because I don't have any choice. But I wish things could be different and we could keep using them, because I think they've had an amazing effect on the whole of the Shire, especially in my 5 years, the last 5 years where I've been on council. So it's a very sad decision for me, and I just had to say it publicly that I'm sorry it has to be like this. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Egan. Councillor Eyre.
I just wanted to say thank you too. I don't need to say much more than that. Everyone else has said it, but thank you for all the hard work and for acting so quickly in response to call outs and things, and wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Eyre. I think every councillor's spoken. So look, I'll just sum up my thoughts as well. David and Galen Blake, particularly David Blake. I've dealt with David. You know, he's been on my speed dial for the last 10 years. He could not have done a better job in terms of the service that he's provided to council. Immediate response. You know, I'd send him a text and a photo and put in a service request at the same time. You know, and it'd be cleaned within 24 hours, often the very next morning. You know, a lot of my intelligence over my time on council has come from Facebook. People complaining about graffiti. David would have it removed literally within hours, sometimes of the notification. You know, what he did differently to most contractors, I suppose, which in hindsight might not have worked well for him, is he actually did work very well with councillors, you know, directly. And by virtue of that fact, he worked very closely with the community, in my belief. Unfortunately, he didn't submit a tender. He has fallen foul of a process, as Councillor Egan sort of said, a bureaucratic process, or a procurement policy and a procurement process that really does favour the big businesses. You know, the small sole operators that, you know, as Councillor Duffy described, were disadvantaged, and David just couldn't see a way forward in terms of being able to you know, it wasn't worth, in his view, investing his time or effort into this procurement process and submitting a tender. So he didn't do it. So he couldn't be considered in the end. You know, it is a sad day for somebody who has contributed so much to the Shire, and in terms of helped me be a good councillor. I'm very, very sorry to lose David and rapid apprehension systems. You know, it's something you don't want to do as a councillor. Like, you know, David has been around working for a little bit longer than I have, and you know, I've always thought the most important thing you can do as a councillor is do no harm. And in some aspects, I think we unfortunately we've done some harm now. I hope that the new contractor will do as good a job, but you know, we'll just have to wait and see. But it's, you know, as we've all said, David and Galen, if you're watching, it's not because of the work that you've done or you haven't done. You couldn't have done more for us as a council. You couldn't have done more for our community, and we really do owe you a massive, well, just a massive amount of thanks in terms of what you've done, and you know, your responsiveness, and I hope you do get other work. It's just a shame that where somebody does do such good work for an extended period of time, that you know, there's no way that we can honour the work that you've done and keep you on, unfortunately. But we have to vote on the motion, and it is not about David and rapid apprehension systems, because he wasn't a tenderer. But hopefully he's got that message loud and clear in terms of the value of his work to us. I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? And it's carried, it's unanimous, and Councillor Payne is going Oh,
Sorry.
sorry.
No,
Sorry,
that
Mayor.
wasn't unanimous. I didn't vote.
Rightio. Okay. So I'll do it again. All those in
So I'm
favour?
not sure whether that's to say I'm abstaining from voting or I'm not voting, but I'm not.
I'll go to governance.
Yeah, through the chair. So a possibility for Councillor Duffy is there to abstain, but it will be recorded in favour. That's the rules.
What does that mean through the chair, Blaga, that it would be recorded if I abstain, that it's recorded in favour?
That's
Does
correct.
that
I mean,
mean-
we're not recording. Sorry, through the chair, we're not recording. It's not requested to record the way the councillors have voted. So it's essentially not going to be on the minutes, in the minutes. But essentially, you have the right to abstain. But when you abstain, you're essentially in voting in favour. So it's a loss of a vote.
Yeah, so I'm not voting for this. Just to, I won't go into any reasons as to why, but I'm just not going to support it. But
Okay.
I know that makes no difference.
You're abstaining. I'll just call for the vote again. All those in favour? And I'll call a division just so we know if that's okay. We've got 6 councillors in favour and Councillor Duffy abstaining. Yep. Thank you. And on to the next item, and it's the informal meetings of councillors' records, 28th of September.
I think, sorry, Mayor.
I was going to get there,
announce
but yeah, of course. Councillor Payne, I'll throw to you. You're going to announce the successful tenderer.
And the successful tenderer are the graffiti eaters. So I'd like to congratulate the winning tenderer for the new graffiti contract for Nillumbik.
And graffiti eaters are a local company, local family business. So they'll do a great job. They're a large company, and yeah, congratulations to them. The next report is informal meetings of councillors' records, 28th of September. Councillor Eyre.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're muted.
Sorry. The motion is that council, in accordance with item 19 of council's governance rule, meeting procedure, receives the informal minutes of councillor records in attachment 1 for the meetings held.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. Do we have a seconder? And we have Councillor Remtran. Back to you, Councillor Eyre.
Thank you. Not only have we been to lots of meetings, but council officers have supported so many additional meetings as well. So it just shows how busy our officers are in supporting fantastic outcomes for the community. So thank you, and don't need to say any more than that.
Thanks, Councillor Eyre. Councillor Remtran. Any other councillor? We are literally zoomed out. We're looking so forward to this current lockdown being over and you know, the whole thing put behind us. But you know, all these meetings have been virtual via Zoom, but there's been a few of them. I will vote on the motion now. All those in favour? And it's unanimously carried. All right, we're on the home stretch. There are no notices of motion. Just yell out if I've got something wrong here. Delegates reports, there are none. Supplementary and urgent business, none. Confidential reports pursuant to section 66(2) of Local Government Act 2020, the Act. The meeting of the council will be closed to members of the public for consideration of the following confidential items. That's Multiple Agreement 2021 to 2024 confidential. And this item is confidential because it's private commercial information, being information provided by a business, commercial or financial undertaking that, if released, would unreasonably expose the business, commercial or financial undertaking to disadvantage pursuant to paragraph G2 of the definition of confidential information on section 3.1 of the Local Government Act 2020. This grant is applied because it is information that, if publicly released at the time, is likely to be inappropriately detrimental to the council or any person, they being natural or corporate. So looking for a motion, Councillor Remtran.
Yes, I'd like to move that in accordance with section 66(2) of the Local Government Act 2020, Council resolves to close the meeting to members of the public to consider confidential items.
Thank you, Councillor Entry. And do we have a seconder? Councillor Duffy. Is there any discussion, councillors? I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. So we'll declare the public meeting closed now. So thanks everyone for attending in the gallery, in the virtual gallery, and you've still got something to do with your night, so enjoy the rest of it.